Welcome, Kennesaw Happenings podcast. We have actually the family man. We've put him in a group with family focused businesses because if you're not really looking at the family aspect of how it works in your business, then you're missing not only good employees, but you're missing good business out there because your priorities have to shift around. So I'm Podcast Pete, and on the podcast we have Chaz. Chaz, introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Hey, thanks for having me, Pete. Hey, I'm Chaz Becker. I am the owner of Brody HVAC. And what we do here locally is we're a contractor that provides services in the heating and air business. So hot, cold air, ventilation out of your home. We do all of the things that are associated with that, maintenance, service, and replacement. So that's kind of what we do professionally.
So that's awesome. So I'm not going to say the business name is not Becker at HVAC. Where did Brody come from?
So that's a great question. I get that question often, believe it or not. And I get called Brody all the time, which is not a bad thing. But hey, Brody's my 10-year-old son.
Yeah.
So 4 years ago when we started our company, I actually asked him as a 6-year-old, hey, this is what Daddy's idea is to do, and I want to use your name in doing that, and I want to honor your name and everything that I do. Do you give me permission to use your name? And at 6, he agreed with that. And now as a 10-year-old, he's a part of a lot of our marketing, and he does a lot of things for our business. I believe that hard work is a key component to a lot of things, and demonstrating that to him and building up my son and giving him the ability to demonstrate to himself that he's capable of doing hard work is all things that are important to me. So having this business and having this business named after him is just a catalyst tool to be able to teach that at home to both my kids. So.
Oh, I love the sound of that. Let's go into, because I think when we had our initial podcast, you said some things that really stood out. So let's talk about the family aspect. So you've named the business after your son. You obviously now know that his name's on everything you have out there. What does that communicate to you, to your clients, that you value the relationship of family and how it intertwines with what you do at work?
Well, it's so intertwined in everything that we do. There's multiple facets to it when you really consider all of the ways that demonstrative becomes part of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I'm 48 years old. I've lived enough life, and at the end of the day, quite honestly, if my personality and how I do business and what I do in the way that I am personally, if it's not your cup of tea, I'm okay with that. I know that I'm not going to please everybody, and I'm not going to spend my time chasing my tail to please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I do a lot to perform and please for people and that kind of thing. But you know what? I will not carry the same level of integrity if only my name is dependent on it. But with the way that we have things structured and the way that I'm representing this name right here, okay, there's a responsibility to it that the person who holds that name doesn't have control over.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not a deadbeat dad that's willing to run his son's name into the ground for the sake of making a dollar, then what do I have as a responsibility to make sure that the future 18-year-old version of Brody Becker has notoriety to his name, as opposed to a gray cloud that looms over him? Oh, you're that Brody. It's a complete different departure. So every day when we do what we do, when we're talking about integrity and quality, we're talking about these things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It means something because this name is important to me, and this name and holding this name and upholding the reputation of that name is paramount. I'm not willing to sacrifice the future of my son, his ability to integrate into our community and do good things just for the sake of making a dollar. So it's there again, there's multiple layers to that. And then going back to just the demonstrative of the business itself in our family, being able to go back and say, hey, son, these are the good things that happened today. Here's the bad things that happened today. This is what I learned. You know what? Your daddy learns things every single day. So when I ask you to go to school and I ask you to be the best version of you at school, and I ask you to be proud of the things that you do at school, when you take a test, did you get an A on the test? Well, no, I didn't. Okay, well, was it your best effort? Because really, do I care about the grade, or do I care about how you felt about what you did? So when we really talk about it, hey, you know what? Did you give it your best, or did you just coast through? Did you do just enough to get by? You know, and we had a conversation about this just the other day. He says, well, so-and-so, smartest person in class, and they only got this grade. I could care less. Great for them. Not part of my conversation. You're not to compare yourself against somebody else. You're compared to yourself. You're supposed to be proud of the work that you put in. Right. Does the work that you put in glorify God? Does the work that you put in represent you and your name? Because the work that I put in every single day, where I have that responsibility, hold on, there it is, to the name that is on the side of my truck and on my shirt and everything else, I have a responsibility to make sure that I'm doing my best so that that name means something.
So what do you, I mean, I love what you're saying. I did initially, I want to tell our viewers that aren't familiar or haven't listened to a previous podcast. So I had Mark on, and Mark really raved in an indirect way about who he worked with and your priorities and everything you stood for. Then I had Krista and Kayla on, who do the social media, and they were raving about you. I'm going like, who is this guy? I mean, like, I gotta meet him. So when I hear things more than once, I kind of go, maybe there's something to this. So I want to know, you're thinking generational. So not many people think generational. When did you, like, how did you form that thinking that I want to build a business that is beyond me? It's got to be the generation next. At what point, or how did you get that philosophy?
So that's a great setup, and I'll pay you later, even though I didn't agree to pay you for that setup. So, but you know, I just have a strong draw towards family. I was raised in a great family. I watched my dad as I grew up. I watched my grandparents as I grew up. When I was very little, my grandparents had the largest manufacturing plant in the city of Tampa, and they manufactured wicker and rattan furniture back in the 70s. That was all the rage and all the craze, and they shipped it all over the world, and they had a very successful business in doing that. And then when I was pretty young, my grandfather sold out of that business, and my dad was an employee in that business, and he found out in a kind of an uncomfortable way that he didn't have a place to go, and he needed to go find a place to go reinvent himself. And in doing that, I watched how my dad used relationships to build what he had to rebuild, going from a family business to having to work for somebody else. And he did custom cabinetry and laminates for almost 30 years. And, you know, I remember distinctly going to restaurants in the Tampa area and just sitting there minding our own business. And sure enough, someone would walk past the table and say, "Oh, hey, Roger, how you doing? How are things?" And all that. And I'm like, "Well, who's that?" And he would tell me who they were and what they did. And 30 minutes later, "Oh, hey, Roger." And someone else would walk up. And it was that constant drip of relationships that would present themselves, and our phone would ring constantly at the house, and I would overhear the conversation. "Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, you need a roofer? Hold on a second." And he would have a black book, literally a black book. And his black book didn't have ladies' numbers in it. It actually had contractors' numbers in it. And they were all of his friends that he would use in the business, because he was around home construction every single day. And when he met someone that he respected in the business and that did good work because he could see what they were doing as they were building the homes and those types of things, he would write them down in his book. And anytime someone would call him and say, hey, Roger, who you got in that does heating and air? Who you got that does electrical? Who you got that does roofing? And he, let me check. Let me get the number for you. Here it is. Just tell him Roger sent you. And that was a constant process that would happen in my home. So watching that, growing up around that and doing that. And as I became an adult and I had to figure out my way in the world, it was always predicated around those relationships. And I became a resource for people that whenever they had a need, no matter what it was, no matter what I was doing for a living, that wasn't really the point. It was the point that Becker would know somebody. Hey, let me call Chaz because, that dude knows everybody. And he's got somebody that's going to help me with my situation, no matter what's going on in my home or my house or my life or my, whether it was a lawyer, whether it was who knows. And because I made it a point to build those relationships and do that, I always had resource of people contacting me for whatever reason. So I've never had a problem finding a job. I've never had a problem finding a resource.
Right.
And then in 2007, God had a different plan for me and decided to move me from Tampa, Florida to Brunswick, Georgia. I got dumped in a city I've never visited, didn't know a soul, didn't know a person, didn't know anything. But what I knew was relationships. And I built some amazing relationships in Brunswick. And then I was there for a season. And then I moved to the Atlanta area. And I've spent the last 16 plus years building those relationships here in this area. And God has shown me over and over again how important those relationships are in doing business and doing life and helping others. I spent a lot of my time in organized business networking, where I get specific time to be able to pour into other business owners and other business leaders and help them grow their business with marketing ideas, with strategies, business strategies, and all those types of things. And that's the highlight of my time. That the time that I finally get to step away from heating and air and pour into someone else's business and watch that business grow because of the influence I get to have with other people, it excites the mess out of me.
Yeah, I can see, because when I finally got you on the podcast, it was kind of like a reinforcement of what I had heard through other people. And I always like to share similar things, like if your story is being told by another person, if it's a good story, it's great. If it's a negative story, like stay away from that company, then you're never going to know what the story is being told until it kind of manifests itself into the growth of whatever you're doing. So at first, you start your HVAC business. There's pressure to build it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But building relationships is the long game. It's slower.
Absolutely.
But it absolutely almost like it compounds in a weird way. So at what point did you have anything like, I move up to Atlanta, I'm going to start this business? Did you feel any pressure at the beginning? Because it's going to be a slow build at first, because you're putting your roots down into a community. What was that feeling like?
So in starting the business, it certainly has pressures associated with that. But I will tell you again, the comfort of it all comes from those relationships, knowing that I have genuine, meaningful relationships with people that creates a level of trust that's different. I always talk about, in the context of our business, what we do is different. And it's because it's done on purpose. It's done for a reason. I tell people all the time, both internally inside of our company and externally outside of our company, if you ever wonder why it is that we're doing what we're doing right now, ask, because there is a reason. There is a method to the madness. There's a reason why we're specifically doing this task right now, for this season, for this purpose, for this moment, for your situation. There's always a reason why. What we do is very detail oriented. And it's not just by happenstance. It's not just because, there is no, in our business. Is where mistakes happen. Intentionality is where excellence comes from. and that's something from a standard point of view that we're really committed to, because there is a lot of competition what it is that we do. So if we don't do things that are different on purpose for that specific reason, it gets lost. Then it's
Right.
about price. And at the end of the day, choosing a contractor based on price is the most haphazard. It's the propensity for waste of money at that point is so high, it's almost scary.
Yes.
So doing things with intentionality and doing things on purpose for a reason, creating that value, is something that is a non-negotiable for me. So when we're talking about integrity and quality, those are not just words to me. And in so many situations, in so many instances, I've been involved in companies, or been around companies, or observed what other companies do that have integrity involved in their marketing, or whatever the case may be, when integrity is the farthest thing from their actual actions themselves. And you have to be careful with that word. It's just like Christian-owned business. I don't put Christian-owned business on any of my vehicles or my marketing, or the Christian fish or anything like that, because just the way personally I believe, and everyone's welcome to believe what they believe, but I don't believe that Christ has given me permission to use his name for the context of the marketing of my business. I do believe that he needs to be involved, and I do believe that if I believe his teachings, that his teachings will allow me to be a better business owner and a better business leader, because I follow and I'm obedient to how he's commanded me to run my business for the sake of his name, but not in the sake of his name. Yeah. I've not been given permission by Jesus himself to hang Christ as a piece of my marketing. It's just, that's, right. I don't believe that. And to those that do, I mean, to each his own. I'm not here to judge or to point fingers or anything like that. But for me and my house, and for the way that I believe that I'm called to be a business leader, those are things that are meant to be shown in action, not shown in name.
Yeah, and there's a big difference. I've never heard the way you described it, in that the promoting of who you are. You don't need to promote who you are, you got to do it. And the
Absolutely.
people that see the results will do your talking for you. It doesn't mean that Chaz has to yell from the rooftops who you are and why you serve. You just do it every day, because intentions do matter.
Sure.
If you're intentional about running your business the way you feel it should be run, then the market will tell you. I want you to comment, because you said something that was really cool. I'm in a group of people, and the person said, well, you say, like, what's going on in your week? And so she said, well, I'm trying to chase down $300 from this contractor. And I said, why are you, and she's been doing it for 7 months. I said, why are you wasting your time on $300? And she really didn't have a conversation with me, because I know where she got the lead. Google. She just picked the person, wrong person, didn't, because the person said, quit calling me. And she's going like, I'm going to make sure this person pays. Look, you're going to spend all your time for $300 because you chose the wrong contractor. Whenever I need somebody, and I'm sure your dad obviously practiced it, he didn't go to Google and say, who is going to put a roof on? He went to the reputation of the people that he had built a relationship with and said, do you know anybody that can do this? Then once they deliver, hey, I'll do another referral. And I know with talking to Mark, that's the way he works with B&I, is he has a relationship with everybody in that room.
Sure.
And so when you can be, and I think this is a lesson, if somebody's not familiar with the structure of it, it's basically building relationships with the people in the room. So when they call you, they say, Chaz, who do you know that does this? You give them a name. You can take that name to the bank, because your reputation is tied to that name. And so that person's going to do a great job because Chad's not going to give him another referral if he doesn't deliver. So that accountability, I think, is so critical in business because too many people select people on a cold basis. And then you're right. The first question out of a cold lead is, what's your price?
Right. So a couple of things come to mind from that, Pete, is that it's about know, like, and trust. It's not about know, like, or trust. It's about know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in selecting a contractor, you can't select a contractor in name only. So it goes. So what you were talking about earlier, where I've had people telling you my story without me even being there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the difference is? It's not a story.
It happened.
It's our life.
Yes.
It's a belief. It's a way of life. It's not a story. If it was just a story, it would fade with marketing. Mm-hmm. It's not about marketing. It's about this is the belief. This is the direction. This is the leadership. This is the application. And this is the operation of how we do business. Mm-hmm. It's not a maybe. It's not a sometimes. It's a this is the only way that we operate. Okay. And when you're selecting a contractor and you're selecting the contractor based off of information that you don't have control of, like advertising or marketing or internet information or whatever the case may be, corroborate the information that you're getting with something that's factual, preferably something that comes from know, like, and trust. The only way you're going to get know, like, and trust is to come into contact with someone who has had an actual experience with that company. Mm-hmm. Okay. Ask them about their experience. How did it go? Did they do what they promised that they would do? Did they agree to the price up front, or did the price change in and of the process? Mm-hmm. Was it transparent? Did you get what you paid for? Those are all important questions that you ask when you're dealing with contractors, when you're dealing with anything in your world, whether you're buying a car, or buying a house, or working on your house, or working on your car, or working in your business, or whatever the case may be. If there is a transaction for money that's going to happen in your life, mm-hmm. you have to do research. You can't walk blindly into a situation because they paid for an ad on Google and you trust that as a resource for your best interest, because it's not at all. And you have to entertain people that have in my case, I spent a lot of time in the community. I spent a lot of time in relationships. I'm out building that trust model. Mm-hmm. I want people to give me an opportunity to prove that trust to the next person. Not give me an opportunity because I did it for the last person, but give me the opportunity because I have a responsibility to do it for the next one. So when I come in contact with a new acquaintance in our business, one of the things I will tell people often, and I've used this in business for many years, mm-hmm. listen, my job today is not to earn your business. My hope is that it becomes automatic. But my job is actually to provide you with an experience that's memorable so that I earn the business from people that you have influence with, at least 3 of them. So I count today as automatic because I'm already here and I'm already working with you. Mm-hmm. But I want you to have such an amazing experience and such a different experience than you had with another contractor or whatever we're doing, so that you actually feel compelled to tell 3 other people about what happened, and you help 3 other people have that experience in their life. That's the goal. Yeah. That's the idea behind the whole thing, because, I'm confident in our processes. And, one of the things contractors like to say, and I like this phrase because it's a lot of fun. I really don't need the practice. I'm a professional. Yeah. I'm confident in what I can do. And it's funny because I have a lot of clients that will come up to us and say, hey, you know what, so and so told me we should do this. I was like, well, so and so does not do this for a living, but I do. And let me tell you why your friend is giving you bad advice, because YouTube is not licensed in heating and air in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
And YouTube does not have insurance for you when you go in and tinker with something that you never should have and your house burns to the ground. And YouTube is not going to bail you out when you can't figure it out, and when their information is incomplete, and you still need to have a licensed contractor perform the service the way that it was intended to perform. So why'd you waste all the time and all the stuff? Why didn't you just call the professional in the first place?
Yeah. That is, I mean, that I've heard that so communicates a strong message to the do-it-yourselfers. And I think it's important to put everything in perspective. You're gonna base your house on a YouTube video that doesn't have anything to do with the accountability, whether that's going to work. And you are a person that just watched the video one time and now you're an expert.
Exactly.
You're going to get in there and you're going to start HVAC in your house because you watched a 3-hour video that told you how to do it.
Exactly. So this is a fun fact, Pete.
Yeah.
If you invite a contractor into your home to perform a service for a fee, and something happens to your home as a result of that service, if that contractor does not have contractor's liability insurance, and or if they are not licensed in the field in which that you employed them for, do you know that your homeowner's policy is null and void for that claim?
Oh my God.
Your homeowner's policy will not protect your home if you use an unlicensed and uninsured contractor. And if you don't believe me, call your agent.
No,
I've spoken to every agent that I know, and every one of them have confirmed this information. I don't care if you have State Farm or Farmers or Allstate, or it does not matter who you have. That is a global exclusion to your homeowner's policy, that if you willfully bring someone in that is unqualified to do a service for a fee, and your house is damaged as a result of that, you have no recourse.
Right.
It's your checkbook now that is insuring that home, not your insurance company that you pay that big payment to every month.
You know, I think you are so spot on. I've heard versions of that not explained like you explained it. And I think we don't think about rolling the dice with an asset like a home. We're trying to save whatever the amount is, and we're risking the actual asset of the home. It's crazy, but it's done all the time. I mean, it's done. And I want to get back to it also. I mean, I think that's a master class in that, because YouTube is like exploding on all these how-to videos, and everybody thinks they're a electrician. They think they're a roofer. They think all this stuff because they watched a video and now they're the expert. Like you said,
well, how do you quantify an expert? Maybe they're wearing a shirt like I'm wearing. What happens if I gave
you're an expert
away?
because you claim it, but that doesn't mean you are. Yeah.
Hang on, wait. What happens if I gave this shirt away to a ministry? That ministry sold that shirt to Goodwill. Some person who's just wanting to gain notoriety went and bought that shirt from Goodwill for $3, and then came home and got on YouTube and said, "Hey, I'm a professional. Watch me do this." Did you know I've actually seen videos a couple of years back where people were recommending, hey, you know how to make an inexpensive snow tire? You take your regular radial tire and you put a bunch of screws in the tire so that the screws create traction in the ice and the snow. Do you know how many people had to go and replace tires because they believed that stuff, because they saw it on the internet?
I believe
it's true. It's true. I'm telling you, there were people that were buying tires because they put a screw in their tire because they saw it on a stupid video, thinking that they were going to save a buck.
Oh
I mean,
my gosh,
it's
this is
absolutely
hilarious.
absurd what's
Yeah,
happening. Here's the thing,
yeah,
folks, and I hope people are paying attention to this. And maybe this what I'm getting ready to say right now may be worth the
yeah.
price of admission. But you
Oh,
need
come
to
on, lay it on
understand
us. Come on. Yes.
our world transitioning to AI.
Yeah.
If you don't know about AI, you need to educate yourself about AI, because AI can do things in the world of media in such a way
Yes.
that can make people believe anything anyone wants you to believe.
Yep.
It is
Totally.
morphing truth, and it's
Yeah.
scary. AI has a place in this world. It can actually
Yeah.
be a benefit to even me and my business. It can give me very insightful information that helps me market my business and do certain things. It is a resource.
Yes.
But in the wrong hands, under the wrong intent, it
Yep.
can be very damaging to our society. And we need to be extra careful where we gain our truth and our knowledge. Because with
Yes.
this AI
Yes.
world that's coming in, it can look very truthful and it can
Yes.
sound very knowledgeable, but it can be a downright lie and a downright deception, and you never knew it.
I
So
agree with you
please be careful as
1000%.
we transition into this world of AI. You
Yeah.
do your research, understand what it can do, understand how to protect yourself and how to protect where you get your knowledge. That's why relationships are going to be so important moving forward. The
Yeah.
only thing
Oh,
AI cannot do, AI cannot separate you and me, Pete.
yeah.
Okay? When you and I
Yep.
talk one on one and we have a genuine, real, human, factual,
Mhm.
relational interaction, AI cannot separate that.
Right.
But anything that has to do with media, and even in the context of a podcast, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to podcasts, but an AI device can create a podcast as long as it's got a picture of my face and as long as it's got a picture of your face.
Yeah.
It could recreate this whole thing and make it look absolutely genuine and authentic when the
Yep.
whole thing was a lie, and everything could be put in to manipulate my words and your words so that it's representing something that's a farce.
I totally agree with you. And I think it goes back to that relationship piece that we were talking about earlier. Nothing replaced is HI, which is
Mhm.
human
Mhm.
intelligence.
Absolutely.
And you always have to filter out the artificial intelligence to be able to get down to this. This provides us the human. I know you, I talk to you, I trust you because we built up a trust. If
Right.
I look at something you online saying something, I'm going, this doesn't make sense because I know Chaz.
But
He
your
wouldn't
your
say that.
original intrigue for
Yeah.
me did not come from me. It
Right.
came from other
Exactly.
sources
Totally.
of trusted
Yeah.
relationship before you and I even ever had an opportunity to
Yeah.
meet.
Oh, yeah.
That that
Exactly.
that
Yep.
creates trust.
Yes.
And that's important because the whole concept of AI, the whole reason AI exists is to understand human pattern.
Right.
Okay. It is to create artificial know, like, and trust,
Yep.
artificial intelligence. It's to create artificial know, like, and trust,
Yep.
not genuine human know, like, and trust, but to tell you what you want to hear so you believe it. That is the whole concept of artificial intelligence and AI.
Yeah.
It's computers that are monitoring everything that we do in social media, in purchase transaction. It's analyzing everything. It's analyzing human pattern in such a way that it creates what you want to hear,
Yep.
and we have to be ultra careful with that.
You know, I when we did the first podcast, I was like, Oh my gosh, this is the Family Man podcast for sure. Now I'm going like, you could be on the relationship podcast, the trust podcast. It can keep going on because I think what you're saying, these are fundamental truths that it doesn't it doesn't get discombobulated with time. It's always going to be this way. Always is going to be a matter of trust in business. Always going to be a matter of relationships in business. And if people too embrace those along with your family, you can, like I was telling somebody about you the other day, and they go, you know what? That is so true, because I could be working like 15 hours a day focusing on my business. Then I wake up one day and my family is gone because my priorities were so jacked up.
Yeah.
They didn't mirror what really works. And what works is what you've described in this podcast. So I tell you, you better be ready, Chaz. We're going to have a series of different ones because you're overlapping into some one all a bunch of areas. Then we're going to have Jim Layton on, our friend. Jim has,
so,
man, this guy's crazy good. And
so here's an interesting twist for you, Pete.
Okay.
Now, how do you tie all this back to family? I have a responsibility as a father to 2 children to protect my children from disbelief.
Yep.
And how do I do that? I teach them relationships.
Yep.
I teach them to walk through our church with their head held high.
Right.
And if someone speaks to them, that they speak back to them and that they have conversations eye to eye. Don't talk to the floor. Don't talk over here. No, when you're speaking to someone, you speak to their face. Sometimes people have a hard time hearing, and you don't realize that by not speaking face to face, you're creating a disconnection there, or an opportunity for there to be miscommunication. So how do I protect my children to know the truth and how to discern the truth and how to know how to get factual information? Because folks, factual information doesn't come from our news. I'm sorry, but it doesn't.
Yep.
Newscasters are paid entertainers that are designed to capture your attention long enough for you to be exposed to a commercial.
Yep.
And if that offends anyone, I'm sorry, but that's the facts of life. And the faster we get to that information being factual for everybody, the more we're going to seek our truth in more safe places. That's actually going to get us the information we need to make better decisions in our world, whether it be elections, whether it be selection of a contractor, whether it be selection of a mate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Why is the divorce rate so high? Well, the divorce rate's so high because people don't court well. Well, why do they not court well? Because they don't know how to be good in relationships. They don't know how to ask the right questions. They don't know how to have face-to-face conversation. They want to spend all of their time texting on a phone, that's not a relationship.
Yep.
That's false. There's nothing factual about a technological relationship. You know what? Maybe God ordained you to be able to meet someone on a dating site. Perfect, wonderful. But then go back to the basics of a relationship and build a good, solid relationship that's built on biblical principles. They're there for a reason. They're over 2,000 years old for a reason, because they work.
Yes.
And because there's a lot of truth that's in those that God put in front of us for a reason. He brought those to our attention for the sake of success. And it's there on purpose for a reason. And I want to demonstrate to my kids, and I want to educate to my kids in such a way that they're able to decipher truth. So when they become adults and they begin to make those decisions on their own, they're making them from a foundation that came from a place of truth, not from a place of AI, and not from a place of video games or social media or whatever the case may be. We're very protective of what our kids are exposed to and what they look at and those types of things. If they're on a device, they're on a device in our presence. They're not on a device in their room where we can't see what they're doing.
Right.
I ask hourly, what are you watching? How long have you been watching that? Watch something else if you're going to continue watching, or put the device down and go outside and play, or go find a friend, or whatever the case may be. Because all of that stuff, media is not going to advance their education. It's not going to advance their prominence in this world, and it's not going to advance relationships. And those are the three things that's going to make them successful as they grow into adults.
Yep. I love it because there's a gentleman who was on my podcast, and he has the Father in Me ministry.
Right.
And I was at my Rotary Club this morning, and the guy asked the organized crime person that's in charge of organized crime for all our counties,
right,
about the father figure within people's lives. If they don't get a father figure, they're going to find it. And in this case, they're finding it in organized crime. So we either become that and build those relationships and teach those principles, or they're going to gravitate to somewhere else. And somewhere else is not good.
So God calls that family. Psychologists calls that belonging.
Yes.
So why is organized crime the way it is? Why are gangs the way that they are? Why is drug use the way that it is? It's all about feeling a sense of belonging. Because if I can do that in a community of people, I feel like I have a place in which that I fit.
Yep.
It doesn't make it the right place, and it doesn't make it a safe place, and it doesn't make it a productive place, but it's a place. And if we can stay in the healthy mindset and understand that about ourselves and about the human nature, and we go build strong relationships that are protective of our family, of our faith, and of our belief system, so that we're not in a place where we're hanging out with people who do those types of things, but we're in a place with people that, you know, I subject myself to mentorship. I try to do it once a month. I want to be in the presence of someone who's in a place much higher than me, much greater than me, much further down the road with me, that I can go and glean from them and ask questions and make myself better because I was in their presence. And I subject myself to that every day. I don't believe at 48 years old that I've arrived anywhere. I don't believe that I've learned all of the things that I'm supposed to learn. As a matter of fact, I get up every morning, and one of the prayers that I have for myself every single day is to make sure that I'm not going so fast that I missed the lesson that God has for me today. Who am I supposed to learn something from? I believe that all my relationships ordained or are ordained. I believe that all of my happenings and all, even this, Pete, I believe it's all ordained by God, that we're supposed to learn something from one another, from every interaction that we have with every individual. Have you ever wondered why God put someone in your life?
Yeah.
If you haven't figured it out, that should be your motivation for the day.
Yeah.
They put this difficult person in my life. Why did God put this difficult person in my life? Well, go find out. Go find out what you're supposed to learn, how you're supposed to be better because of that person's influence in your life, even if it's negative.
I'm going to tell you, Chaz, this is crazy. You have hit on Double Figures podcast, because we have the relationship podcast, the trust podcast. We got so many in the works, and you're hitting on all these podcasts because getting information out to people, we want them to decide for themselves. Just like you said, you've got to do your homework. You're responsible for your behavior, which means you got to talk to a mentor that's been down the road, that has done things, that's made mistakes, that can say, Chaz, here's what I never thought about when I was your age, but now I know is an issue if you're not thinking about this. And it's like, man, I didn't think about that. But only a mentor who's traveled that road can shed some light on something like that. So we do have a mentors podcast coming out too. So, hey, I think we're going to have you on more than one podcast. And the Family Man was just the initial one, but we're going to have you on lots of podcasts.
You know, God brings a lot of things my way because I care about people.
Yeah.
I care about doing right by people, and I care about the relationships that I have with people. And at the end of the day, the relationships is what drives everything.
Yep.
It's not heating and air. It's not having your own business. It's not it all boils down to, what are you doing with the relationships in your life?
Yep.
What are you doing with your marriage? What are you doing with your kids? What are you doing with your family? Have you called your mom today? Have you called your dad today? I need to call my dad today, if I'm being honest, because I haven't talked to him in about a week, and that's too long. And I've been busy, and I'll apologize to him, and we'll pick up where we left off, because I have an amazing dad. And but at the end of the day, I need to go call him, and I'm going to go do that when we hang up here, because that was God's prompting to say I need to go and encourage my dad today. But
Well,
are
we're
you
going to do this. Hey, Roger, this is for you, because
Yeah.
I'm going to send the podcast to your son. Your name's been mentioned quite a bit on the
Yeah.
podcast, and it obviously should be more often, because the lessons you taught your son are now the next generation, and they're going to the next generation. And
Yeah.
that's so powerful, is to have positive things that are going from one generation to the next.
My dad poured into me. He taught me a lot. He taught me how to hold a hammer, and he taught me how to hold a conversation, and everything
Those
in
are pretty
between.
good. Those are good
Yeah.
skills, I tell you.
And
A hammer and relationship. I love that.
I'm grateful for my family,
Yeah.
but again, it takes intentionality. Everything in this life requires intentionality.
Yes.
And do things on purpose.
Yep.
Do things for a purpose.
Yep.
You know, as men, we're created by God to have purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start to lose sight of that, we lose sight of what God would have in store for us. There's blessings that are literally waiting on the other side of that purpose.
Yep.
If you would engage it and you are intentional about it. You know, it's not about the busyness of life. It's not about how much you can cram in to 1 hour or whatever the case may be. It's about the quality that you spend in that 1 hour. Yep. And doing that, and shedding the things that should not capture your attention, and paying attention to the things that should be capturing your attention, the people who need your attention. There's people that you're leading in your life, whether it's you're leading them in your home, whether it's you're leading them in your business or your industry, or maybe a networking group that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Be a leader, stand out, do things on purpose, for a reason, for the sake of somebody else, because really, is it about us, or is it about other people that we can help? And I just would encourage everyone, be intentional. It was a word of mine, it was a word of the year for me a couple of years back. And that's the season that God used to show me that I was supposed to be in business for myself, was the year that I picked intentional as my word for the year. But you know, what could that mean to you if you were intentional today?
I love it. I love it. I want you to tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
Hey, real simple. I know it's down here on the screen. You can get a hold of us at our business, 404-458-1975. You can reach us via an email at info@brodyhvac.com. I'm available on Facebook, Instagram, not our business is on Instagram. I don't do Instagram. That's too, it's too much for me. I'm not on Twitter, but I am on LinkedIn. So you could reach me there as well. If you have a personal message or a question that I could answer for you, or a way that I can help you in any way. I want to be helpful. And oh, by the way, I do HVAC. So if I can help you with what we do for a business, I'm good for that. If I can help you in some other way, maybe put you in touch with someone that you can trust in an industry, whether it be plumbers or electricians, or like I spoke about earlier, I've got lawyers and real estate agents, and all people, all walks of life, all industries. I have relationships in a lot of those areas to make sure that I have a trusted resource for people, to make sure that they have someone that they can trust in regards to the questions that they have in any industry that you need.
No, it's that just, you actually hit about 10 master classes on this podcast, Chaz. It's crazy, because I want people to, like you said, take away those lessons. And the fact that you're covering a lot of key subjects that are successful if you practice them. Being intentional. If a person says, I'll call you back, and you don't, that means you're not intentional about keeping that relationship. Relationships is about trust. It's a number of things, but I love, on your calendar, I had a person say, be intentional, like block those times, family time. I'm going to go to my son's baseball game. Be intentional, put it on there. Don't say, well, I got busy at work and I couldn't make it. That's not being intentional. That's being just reacting to whatever the day brings.
Anyone who calls me and tells me that they're too busy to do something, I ask to see their calendar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
really, you're right about that. Your calendar
99 times,
tells your priorities.
99 times out of 100,
yeah.
it's blank.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They don't know how much time that they have because they're not intentional with any of it.
Totally.
I don't have time to do this at home. I don't have time to be a dad. I don't have time to do this. You don't have time because you don't know what time means.
Absolutely.
If you're militant to your calendar and you're intentional about that, and the appointments that are on your calendar are important to you.
Yes.
Appointments are dating your wife.
Yep.
Appointments are spending time with your kids. And appointments happen on Saturdays. Appointments happen on Sundays. It's every block of time is important if you make it important.
Totally.
Or it's not if you don't.
I might have the toughest question for you to answer here.
Okay.
Are you ready for it?
I'm more than ready.
I want you, for our viewers, I want you to give them the one thing you would want them to go home with from this podcast. And you got to keep it at one. You've covered about 10 dozen, which are absolutely master classes, but I want you to narrow it down.
I think the biggest one of all the things we talked about was be intentional.
Okay.
Because if you can employ that in every facet of your life, it will change your life. 100% guaranteed fact. If you are intentional about what it is that you do, no matter what it is that you're doing at that moment. I mean, even being intentional at the grocery store,
yes,
can change your life.
Totally.
Being intentional at the grocery store could mean that you're losing weight if you wanted to, or gaining weight if you needed to. It's not about where you are, and it's not about only negative things. It's about, it could be about how you feel after you eat. And all that starts with intentionality at a grocery store of all things.
Right.
So you can apply it globally, anywhere, any place, any time. Being intentional is the most important thing that you can do with anything.
Yeah. I'm going to just give a shout out to your dad. So Roger, this is for you. I always love that thing. Job well done. So your dad did a exceptional job, and it's so cool to see it being played out in life. So tell him from Podcast Pete, he said, job well done there, Dad, because you did. He did for you. So thank you. And certainly make that phone call. I believe in that so much. Is be intentional about how we build our relationships.
Yep. I'm gonna call him today. When this gets published, I'm gonna send him a link so he can watch it.
Okay. Well, you're gonna get this in about 5 minutes. So
there you go.
You're gonna have to make that call pretty quick.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna call him before lunch because I got to be intentional about it, or it disappears in my day. And I know if God's put it on my mind to do that, then I have to go and do that because there's a reason for it. So I have to go find out what that reason is. Maybe he's having a bad day, and maybe I need to encourage him. But but at the end of the day, if I'm not intentional about it, then my day will consume me, and it won't get done, and then I'll wish I had, and that's a bad feeling some days. So
no, it's good. So thank you so much, Jazz. I appreciate you taking the time and really pour it into our viewers to really kind of. These things, there's so many things in here. I can't even mention them, but we're going to have you back on multiples. You'll be on a bunch. So our viewers, get ready for Chaz Becker, because you're going to hear some more things that are going to make you better as a business person, as a father, as just navigating through life, because it's hectic out there, and you better have your priorities kind of lined up, because it'll throw you around. It'll throw you around and knock you down. But if you have solid principles and beliefs about how you run your life, you'll be so much better. Thank you so much, Jazz.
No, I look forward to it. It's awesome. But maybe what we'll do is we'll do some 3-ways with some of the people that influence me. And, and
totally.
that way people can realize it's not just some weird guy that has some crazy ideas, but there's more than one person out there that thinks the way that I do. Nothing that I think is of me. It's either of God or of influencers that are in my life and that make my life better. So I'm grateful for those that I have relationship with, and I look forward to introducing some of those to you as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chaz. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, Pete. It's been a great
Have a
time. Thanks so
wonderful day.
much.
Thank you.